Welcome to Hello Port Hueneme, and today we are interviewing the police chief of Port Hueneme, Chief Salinas. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tom.
The chief has been here since what, March?
March of this year.
March, and so this is approximately 6 months. And you did mention to me at one of the city council meetings, you've noticed that your hair is already starting to turn gray because you're so busy.
It is. One of the first things I noticed is that we've got a lot to do here, but we're moving in the right direction, and there's some good things to come.
Tell us a little bit about your career in with the Oxnard Police Department and what you did there that you think really got you set up for doing the Port Hueneme job as being the chief of police.
Sure, Tom. Well, I actually started with the Los Angeles Police Department when I was 19 years old. I started as a reserve police officer. I moved up to Ventura County in 1993. Where then in 1994 I applied at the Oxnard Police Department, became a police clerk, then became a reserve officer, and then in 1996 I got hired as a police officer there. So I've been a sworn officer there for 22 years before applying here.
Wow.
And I worked a number of assignments and moved up the ranks from police officer, where I ultimately, the last 7 years I spent as a police commander, where I oversaw our investigative services division and the major units, our major detective units. My career has spanned a number of assignments, including the storefront, grant writer, narcotics detective, sexual assault detective, special services sergeant, training sergeant, and our special services commander as well, which is in charge of our traffic division and jail facility.
So you had a long list of things that you were involved in, which to be a chief, you need to know how all of that operates, so that like you come to Port Hueneme, maybe it has some of it, maybe it has all of it, which I'm sure it did not. And so if you want to improve certain parts of it and or add new stuff to it, you've got the background and know how to go about it.
Yeah, that's what helped a great deal when I applied here, is that I would commonly work in the south end of Oxnard or some of the adjacent areas here in the city of Port Hueneme, and I used to live in the Port Hueneme. My son currently attends the Hueneme School District, so I'm very familiar with this area. I felt I was very vested in this community already, coming in and applying here, and I knew some of the things that needed to get done, and I was going to use the many different things I learned at the city of Oxnard, its community policing philosophy, which it's been recognized for, and applying some of those principles here in the city of Port Hueneme.
You mentioned the community offices, or what's the right word for it?
Community policing?
Yeah, the community policing, where I know over in the, I can't remember the name of the shopping center, but right, Ralph's, there was a little place that the police had an office there, and
Yes.
there might have been another one somewhere else. Are they still active?
So what we call those are community police storefronts, and right now, while those locations exist, they haven't been quite active in terms of being open to the public, where they can have regular visiting hours to meet the officers, and they're commonly staffed with volunteers, which allow the community to come in and have their questions answered by our volunteers. But that's something that we're looking forward to here in the future, is once we get that staffing and manpower where we need it to be, is opening up our local storefronts here in the city of Port Hueneme.
Yeah, being a small town, I think it's really nice to have something like that. People feel that, hey, they're here. You know, not just stuck in the city hall building where it's impossible to get into, and sometimes, but you have these nice little offices. People can walk in off the street and talk to somebody. So that's something I've heard that people really enjoy, and something you might want to be able to work on in the future. When you came here, you mentioned to the city council you had a 5-point plan of some type that you wanted to implement. Can you give us a brief overview of what that is?
Sure. So some of the strategies that I wanted to employ here that I actually brought from the Oxnard Police Department included being a professional organization first and foremost, which included being transparent and being accountable as a police agency. Second, crime reduction. That's important in any community, along with traffic safety and pedestrian safety. That was number 3, along with community policing and community engagement. Because as we all know, it's important to be engaged with our community and have our officers know our community and our community know our officers.
I've noticed on media locally that the police have done a number of functions that I had not seen before, and this is something you've implemented with yourself and the officers.
Yes.
Well, it's nice to really see them out there and working. When the police are out in the community, what's the number one feedback you have gotten from them that they see in us out there?
The number one thing that I've seen in all the neighborhood watch meetings or community meetings I've attended is the appreciation for the level of customer service our police officers provide here to our city residents. When they dial 911, they get an officer there quickly, whether it be a civil dispute, a burglary call, or an actual felony or critical incident in progress. Our police officers have an average response time, regardless of the type of call, is less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, at our HOA, a few times that we have them out there, it's been 3 to 4 minutes. It seems to be about the norm.
Right, and unfortunately in some of the larger cities in our county, it could take up to hours to have an officer respond. And so that's the one thing I noticed our residents appreciate our officers getting there quickly, because when you are involved in an incident and are calling 911 for the first time, you want an officer there fast, and that's something that we provide to our residents.
I've noticed that you have worked pretty hard on getting people involved, letting them know what the crimes that are most likely to occur are and how to prevent those. Can you tell me a couple of those and what can be done that the citizens can do to help keep the crime rate down?
That's a good question. So right now, we're actually experiencing some of the lowest crime we've ever had in the city's history. And so right now, crime is down. Violent crime is down 50% in the city of Port Hueneme, along with property crimes being down nearly 25%. And so that's something that we're experiencing this year. But the overall driving force behind our crime rate right now is theft, and theft from vehicles, and motor vehicle thefts, and shoplifts. So as a citizen in the city of Port Hueneme, what we can do is we can make sure that we lock our doors, make sure we lock our vehicles, make sure we take our keys from our vehicle and take them inside, and do our part to secure ourselves, and that'll, in essence, help our crime rate reduce even more. So we're not having to deal with those crimes, and I see our crime rate even going even lower.
Yeah, so it's a 50-50 type of relationship. You guys do the best you can, and then the citizens have to be alert, participate, and you mentioned at one of the city council meetings, I can't remember what month, but you're going to really focus on a couple things to alert the citizens of how they can help to prevent crime.
Absolutely. So we'll be putting out some crime prevention tips and using our new social media platform, Facebook, to distribute that information, as well as targeting some of the neighborhoods where we find that this type of crime is more prevalent than others, to kind of just give them that helping hand and remind them some of the things they can do to protect themselves.
There's another program, if you can give me the history of it, called HEART. Can you explain that and when it started and what the purpose of that is?
So our HEART program started from a couple of police officers some 10 years ago, Officer Hart as well as Officer Alita Morgan, and they saw a need for our senior citizens in the Hueneme Bay neighborhood who weren't getting the attention they needed. They didn't have family to come and visit them. They didn't have family to check in on them, and so they created this HEART program, and we've recently resurrected it. And just this past weekend, we had nearly 50 people sign up for the program, and it allows the police department as well as our explorers, our volunteers, to go out and visit these elderly residents to check up on them and make sure that they're doing okay medically, physically, and just spend some time with them.
Excuse me. That's gotten a great response. You mentioned at the city council meeting last Monday that you're having a couple more sessions with those people to sign up, and so you know who they are. And the first story I heard about it was, I guess it was in Hueneme Bay, but the officers noticed that a certain gentleman had not taken his normal walks when they were out there, and so they knew where he lived. They went up and checked, and I think the guy had turned his ankle or something and just couldn't be out there, exercising like he normally had. But they found out he was okay, and it's stuff like that. You never know when it's going to be an emergency, and the response there would be life-saving in some cases.
Exactly, and that's actually one of the advantages to having a hometown police department, is that our agency can participate in these types of activities and provide this level of customer service to our residents that you don't normally see in other communities.
Another program you have started is here was the Explorer Police Cadet Explorer program. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. Well, that program has actually been here for quite some time now, but we noticed that our participation level was rather low. When I arrived here, we had anywhere from 5 to 6 explorers. In my first 6 months here, we have 18 explorers now that have gone through the academy and are now part of the program. And the Explorer program is for high school age kids between the ages of 14 and 21, and it teaches them about a career in law enforcement, teaches them life skills, teaches them about leadership. You go through a 3-week summer academy and you learn about going on ride-alongs, what it takes to be a police officer. It really prepares you for life and making the right choices. So it's not just about wanting to be a police officer. A lot of our explorers subsequently become law enforcement officers, and in fact I'm proud to say the last officer I just hired was an explorer who started here when she was 14, and we extended her a job offer recently. She accepted, and so the program works. It works as a funnel system for our high school age kids to come up and subsequently become police officers. And the last three of our 4 officers that were hired as police officers were one-time explorers here in the city of Port Hueneme.
That's wonderful. It's like in-house hiring.
Yes, it is.
I wanted to ask you a question. Since you came from Oxnard, South Oxnard, a lot of time there, you were familiar with Port Hueneme. What's the main thing that you have noticed in Port Hueneme that you weren't really aware of?
The lack of social media presence. When I arrived here, there was nearly none. They weren't on Facebook or Nextdoor.com or any of the social media outlets or platforms to really let the community know what was happening here, not only in the city of Port Hueneme, but specifically the police department. So since then, as many of you may know, that we started our own Facebook page where we have nearly 1,400 followers now, which is great. And it allows us to engage the community, allows us to share information with them, good information, bad information, information about arrests, crime stats, and fundraisers, and just things that are happening in the community that the public normally wouldn't know about.
Since there is no newspaper here, and I've tried to help out in that area with Port Hueneme News, one thing I noticed on a couple of stories that we have posted, and people are aware, they've seen this in newspapers and stuff, if you have any information,
Yes.
contact the police department. And so as long as we can put that up on your Facebook and our Port Hueneme News, the people, if they see stuff, I mean, it's great to have 22,000 pair of eyes out there helping you.
Absolutely, and that's proven effective. A couple of months ago, we had a lost 6-year-old at Port Hueneme Beach, and we put out a posting, and we got over 35,000 hits in a matter of a few hours. It was shared several hundred times, and the news got out, and we were able to find that child's responsible party thanks to that Facebook posting. So it works, and the community wants to get involved, they want to help, and that's just a classic example of how effective using that social media platform is.
Yeah, and let us know the follow-up when that happens and it's such a success story like
Yes.
that. The people in Port Hueneme, one of the first things once I got involved heard was, again, like you said, how much they like the service and how friendly the guys are. And what I'd like to do is, for the people of Port Hueneme, is to come to the police department and do a tour with you of the police department. And since they like it and want to, be with the officers so much, is that you can explain, here's what goes on in Port Hueneme. And then if we have a chance, I'd like to do a ride around with you and one of your officers, and we can tour the city, and you can tell us about different parts of the city. So hopefully we can do that in the next maybe month or so.
That would be great to give you a virtual tour of our police facility for our Hueneme residents, as well as giving you a passenger view right along in our police unit to see what we deal with on a daily basis out in our wonderful city.
Good, I'll look forward to doing that. And there's one other thing. I understand that you play golf.
I do. I've been known to hit the ball every once in a while.
Okay, I do too. I have a challenge for you.
Okay.
You and I will go mano-mano at River Ridge Golf Course, and we will play a round of golf. And I think I'll ask Rod Butler, the city manager, and the mayor, Tom Fick, to join us, just to observe and make sure there's no shenanigans or kicking the ball from behind the bush.
You got it. No
Or
foot
something.
wedges.
No foot wedges. And what we'll do is we'll have a bet, and the loser has to give $50 to the police explorers.
Done deal. Absolutely.
Oh, that's me.
I look forward to getting your check from you.
Oh, okay. Well, you wouldn't mind if I brought it in pennies, would you?
Not at all.
Okay. Well, we'll try to set that up, and we'll let the people know, and we'll film the person having to reach into their pocket and putting $50 on the table.
You've got it. It's
All
a
right.
deal.
Thank you very much, Chief.
You got it, Tom.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview, and we'll have many more of these, and we'll look forward to the tour with the chief and the police department. Good day.